continually elevated, but luckily they are not nearly as expensive as they were in April 1860, at the start of the Pony Express. At $5 per half ounce, it's a wonder that the Pony Express ever got off the ground. Hello, my name is Greta. I am 11 years old and a member of the Raindrop Roundup Boys Club of St. Lawrence County. I will be taking you on a ride through history. Last year was the 150th anniversary of the Pony Express. I find the Pony Express interesting, so I decided to look into its history. Unfortunately, many of the records, in fact, either were not well documented or have been lost over time. During that time, people were more interested in receiving news from the government or a letter from a loved one than focusing on the many hardships and hazards the riders faced while racing cross-country with the mail. Messages and news have long been carried around in couriers, going back as far as Darius the Great, who ruled Persia around 500 BC. In 1860, our telegraph line only went west as far as St. Joseph, Missouri. Prior to the Pony Express, mail was carried by boat to California, either around Cape Horn in South America, or through the isthmus across Panama. This took a month or more. Stagecoaches were used, but the route was 3,000 miles long, as it went from St. Joseph down through Texas, explored bad weather, mountains, and Indians. A shorter, more central route was needed. William Russell seemed a logical person to make the Pony Express a reality. He was an opportunist with an eye for the future and a fearless risk-taker. He already owned a mammoth freighting business which owned 45,000 oxen and employed 6,000 teamsters to drive them. Russell teamed up with Alexander Majors and William Waddell. Majors was experienced in overland freight hauling and was knowledgeable about animals. Waddell was good with finances and inventory. They named their new venture the Central, Overland, California, and Pikes Peak Express Company. This name was quite cumbersome, so it soon became the Pony Express. But people of the time just called it the Pony. Massive expenses were incurred in getting the Pony up and running, causing the company to lose money from the onset. But the three men forged ahead. The route would cover 1,966 miles from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California, through 8 states in just 10 days. The hardest parts of the route would be the Sierra Nevada mountains in winter, with their massive snowdrifts and very narrow passes, and getting through Indian territory. One of the first steps was dividing the route into 5 divisions and hiring superintendents for each one. Their jobs are many and critical to the operation. There are approximately 190 stations. Relay stations were built every 10 to 15 miles. They were used just for changing horses. Every 75 to 100 miles was a home station. This is where a new rider took over the run, and the previous rider got to eat and rest for a few days until the mail came fast through and he would retreat to his route. Many of the stops doubled as stagecoach stops. The stations ranged from the very fancy Patty House in St. Joseph to the more average ones like Simpson Springs and Rock Creek, to the very desolate and primitive Sand Springs, which was nothing more than a roofless wall of rocks in the desert with foul-smelling water. Food was quite good at the home station, and often less than ideal at the more remote stations. A rider was lucky to get decent water, beans, coyote meat, or trout. Mattresses were filled with straw or horsehair, bugs included, and the bed frame was made of ropes that had to be tightened every night. I've heard that this is what led to the saying, "Sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite." Many stations have now fallen to the elements. A few remain in our National Historic Sites. 500 horses of the best quality were purchased for $200 apiece. The horses were fleet, confident, sure-footed, and had great endurance. Many were barely broke, but the riders just galloped off, leaving them little time to buck or resist. Horses got to know the route so well that sometimes the horse would come in with the mail, but without the rider, if the rider had fallen off. The average speed on the run was 10 miles per hour. Originally, 80 riders were hired. Although they advertised for skinny boys not over 18, with orphans preferred, most were in their 20s, and there were very few orphans. The oldest rider was in his 40s, and the youngest was 11. They had to be tough, fearless, excellent outdoorsmen, and horsemen. They were paid $25 per week. They took an oath not to swear, drink, gamble, or abuse the horses. They carried a Bible, a horn, to announce their arrival, and a hand gun. They were expected to outrun the Indians, not fight them. The Pony Express horses were grain-fed, whereas the Indians' horses survived on grass alone. The rider's average weight was 125 pounds. The equipment was stripped down to bare essentials, lightweight bridles and saddles that were nothing more than treated with stirrups and a cinch. These saddles were much smaller than the traditional Western saddle. Israel Landis from St. Joseph, Missouri designed and made these saddles. The mochila was a special type of saddlebag designed to fit over the saddle horn and cantle. It was made of two pieces of leather laced together. It had 4 pockets. 3 were kept locked. Only the station keepers at each end had keys. Station keepers along the way had keys to the front left pocket, so mail could be added or delivered during the run. Exchange of horse and mochila was expected to take no more than 2 minutes. Total mail weight could not exceed 20 pounds. Onion paper, which was thin and lightweight, was used for letter writing. Mail was wrapped in oiled silk bundles to help keep it dry when fording streams or in downpours. The original cost was $5 per half ounce. That's equivalent to $95 today. By June of 1861, the price was lowered to $1 per half ounce. Most mail was government or business, as few people could afford the cost. The names of people receiving mail were printed in the newspaper. The first westbound mochila, carried by Johnny Fry, had 49 letters, 9 telegrams, and some newspapers. The first eastbound, with writer William Hamilton, had 84 pieces of mail. Estimates put total mail runs at 308, with a total of 34,753 pieces of mail carried. Total miles run were 616,000, equal to 24 trips around the world. The Pony ran from April 3, 1860 to October 26, 1861. The east and west telegraph lines were joined in Salt Lake City, October 25, 1861. Sadly, at this time, the Pony Express was bankrupt. Some people say the Pony ran for 19 months, others 18, as it was shut down for 4 to 6 weeks to the Paiute Indian uprising, also known as the Pyramid Lake War. Paiutes were angry at the settlers for killing their game and cutting down the pinyon trees for firewood. Pinyon nuts were an important food for the Indians. They began attacking Pony Express stations, killing the keepers, and running off the horses. U.S. soldiers were called in and stationed along the route to quell the uprising. The Pony was up and running again in late June 1861. News of Lincoln's inauguration was one of the most important messages ever carried, especially with the Civil War looming over our nation. I will now highlight a few facts and stories that I found interesting. Only 1 mochila was ever lost. A few riders were killed while riding. 1 drowned, another froze. 1 horse came miraculous with the mail. The rider was never found. A luckless rider broke his neck when his galloping horse tripped over a sleeping buffalo at night. Quite a few horses were lost from exhaustion, broken bones, and wounds. Rider Johnny Fry was a favorite with the young ladies along the route. They often baked treats for him. Realizing it was hard for him to hold the treats and the reins, they put a hole in them so he could carry them on his fingers. This was one of the inspirations for today's donut. William Fisher was caught in a fierce storm. He came upon a wagon train waiting at the storm. They urged him to stay, but he lived by the motto, the mail must go through, and kept on. He got hopelessly lost. He huddled down in the snow, holding his horse. He was exhausted and cold and almost fell asleep when he felt something on his leg. He looked up to see a rabbit hopping away. He credited the rabbit with saving his life as he rode on and made it safely to a ranch. Robert, Pony Bob Haslam, made the longest ride. It happened during the Indian War. There are very few relief horses, relief stations were destroyed, and many riders refused to ride for fear of their life. Pony Bob kept going. He rode 380 miles in 36 hours with little rest. When finally released, he was only 3.5 hours behind schedule. By the way, mail is still delivered by horseback to the Havasupai Indians who live on the floor of the Grand Canyon. In reviewing my presentation, I've explained the history of the Pony Express, talked about why it was needed, told you about the riders, horses, and stations. I've also told you some amazing facts and stories. I received my information from Essex Magazine, June 2010, Life on the Pony Express by Diane Yancey, Man on Horseback by Glenn R. Vernon, Orphans Preferred by Christopher Corbett, Here Comes the Pony by William E. Hill, This packet was sent to us by the Pony Express Museum in St. Joseph, Missouri, along with a lot of other information. In these websites: 42explore2.com, rootsweb.ancestry.com, americanwest.com, and pnyexpress.tripod.com, nps.gov, and ponyexpress.org. If you would like to see the websites, I have a handout that you can have. Are there any questions?
Did you say they printed the names of people receiving mail in the newspaper?
The question was, is it true that they printed names of people receiving mail in the newspaper? They did print the names in the newspaper so people would know when to go pick up their mail. Are there any other questions?